So here's the guidelines. First of all, this is the percentage that you can expect from marketing. So cold call advertising, you can only expect 1%. 1%. It doesn't work very well. Passive referrals only create 7%. And you know that because you go and buy products and services every day. You probably bought some products or services yesterday, and you were probably satisfied with the price, the quality, and the service. And you went about your business and you didn't tell and refer anybody. And that's what happens 93% of the time. So passive referrals are only responsible for 7%. And this is the other reason you cannot wait around for passive referrals. And the other reason, obviously, is there's only 8% of the population looking for chiropractors. So you only have 8% looking. That's a reason you within your confined geographic area, and it's divided by the chiropractors in that geographic area. Well, that alone will not create abundance. And then you only have 7% passive referrals. So if you're just dependent on the 8%, your share of the 8% and waiting for referrals, you're not going to have much of a practice. So leads will give you 15%. So your chances of getting business from leads is way better than a passive referral. Active referrals can go up to 55%. In other words, you create them. In other words, you know what to say and do to create referrals. And then that should actually say introductions, not leads. Introductions. Introductions, you'll get as much as 75% from introductions. Now, the reason that makes one form of marketing better than the other is trust and need. So if you go in the cold call category, there's no trust and there's no perceived need. That's why it's the worst marketing you can do. And by the way, that's what most chiropractors do. When I do a practice evaluation and I look at the marketing and all the where they're getting their new patients, overwhelmingly, it's from cold call advertising, which is the worst business, the most expensive business, and you can't buy yourself in the prosperity. So that's why those numbers are what they are. Leads are 15% because at least with a lead, we know there's a problem to some degree. There's either one or the other, trust or a problem. And it's usually, at least there's a problem to some degree. Active referrals is too. We know there's both. There's a problem and there's trust. And of course, the introductions are 75%. That's when we have trust and there's a problem. And a good example of that is when, we talk to our patients and they have a spouse or family member with back pain, neck pain, headaches, etc. I mean, that's the absolute easiest patient to get. We have high trust, high circle of influence, high trust, and we know somebody that has a gateway problem. That's the absolute easiest business you'll ever get. And most chiropractors never even ask. So, or they don't know what to do to get that business. And then remember, there's 3 different types of marketing you can apply to get it. So remember, that's why we want to spend our time in the introduction categories and the active referrals, and we want to stay away from cold calls and leads.